Hello, SFUVA and Bay Area Hospitality Group. Thank you all for being here today. I am Mike Maurer. I am with Merchants Exchange Productions. I represent the Julia Morgan Ballroom, the Merchants Exchange Club, and our restaurant Credo.
Can't quite hear you, though. It's bouncing off the back of the sign.
Right up here.
All right, there we go. I just need, usually I just yell instead of having a microphone. So thank you all for being here. Just a little history on the San Francisco Unique Venue Alliance, as well as the Bay Area Hospitality Group. The Unique Venue Alliance has been around for a few years. It's a referral group. It's for unique venues that don't have sleeping rooms. So all of our venues out there that are here, Academy of Science, The Pearl, 111 Minna, ourselves, and Exploratorium, and those venues have banded together in an alliance. So we are going to launch a website. I know. You guys have heard this for a very long time. However, we have some partners here with Perfect Venue who are actually going to facilitate that. So look for that coming up. And then the Bay Area Hospitality Group has actually been around for a lot longer. This is a group that started with a golf tournament back when Neil and I worked together at the Park 55 back in 2000. So it's been around for quite a while. But let me, without further ado here, is get Lily and Fan up here to tell you about the crossing and where we're at today.
Yay! Thank you for coming this way. Welcome to the crossing at EastCut. If you're not familiar, the EastCut is a new district that was put in place about 7 years ago. It used to just be part of SOMA, and it services over 12,000 residents. So all of these luxury high-rises, including affordable housing with Mercy Housing here, are people that join us. And then also behind you, you'll see Meta Tower and all these huge corporate high-rises. So between the two, it's a really fun mix of both corporate and residential people that come here, and then there's a lot of amenities. So you'll see an immersive experience coming up with Invisible. There's our bar from Greyhound, so thanks for sponsoring. Mar Bar and the PETA and Euro Concept is also providing food. We have LuxFit, who provides personal training and also fun group classes. For example, this Saturday they're doing outdoor LuxFit yoga, so it's underneath the palms. If you guys want to come, it's a great place to just have some fresh air and do some yoga. And then the Cut Outdoor Cinema, that's something that we just launched a few weeks ago. So if you're in the mood to check out Mean Girls this weekend or Shang-Chi, that's another great thing. They have some classics and also some new shows. So please enjoy. And if you have any questions, let me know. We have a ton of outdoor spaces that you can use for events, and you can also buy out the whole place. And then finally, afterwards, please enjoy bites from Mar Bar, which is right there. And then also ice cream from our dessert kiosk, Cream and Sugar. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Lillian. I'd like to thank again Mar Bar, Casanova Events, whose chairs you're sitting on. And we also have Urel Motion Video and Productions here, which will be able to see the video and send it to those who are either sick today or can't come. And most importantly, Merchants Exchange Video and Events, which is back here. Walter Ryan and our team, we can actually take our AV off-site and service your event. So hopefully you'll be able to check that out. And we are here to talk about rising cost in events, something that seemingly is a hot topic, and I've asked some folks to join us on stage here. We're going to bring Neil up with Bright Events, Lally Clark from Lally Clark Events, and Adam Dove from Carrie Dove Catering. Alrighty, so why don't we introduce ourselves to the crowd?
Hello, I'm Neil Adams. I am the Business Development Manager for Bright Event Rentals. I've been with Bright for a little over 4 years now, but I've been in this industry, come February, it'll be 20 years. So starting to get the hang of it. So.
Hi, Lally Clark with Lally Events. I've owned my company for about 5.5 years. I've been in the events industry, worked at Salesforce, and worked for some wedding planners prior to that. So excited to be here.
I'm Adam Dove with Carrie Dove Catering and Events, one of the owners of the company. My tenure is closer to Neil's than Lally's. We've had our company for about 21 years or so.
Alrighty, so rising cost of events here. So I'm going to ask each of you to kind of take an example in the last post-pandemic as what it is that you're combating. And we'll start with Neil.
Starting with me, okay. Well, you've probably noticed that things get more expensive, and they just always do. I mean, if you're talking about rentals, I mean, the cost of wood is higher. Maintaining your product, it costs money. What we do at Bright is we invest very heavily in our product. We also invest very heavily in our staff. So everyone from front of the office or the people that are washing the dishes, we want to make sure that we're paying them a good wage so that they invest very heavily in the events that we do for you and by extension what we do for your clients. And we want to make sure that's a good experience. And prices go up. The price of gas has gone up. And that's just something that happens. And I think as far as the conversation goes, just talking about the rising costs, I think for us, what we need to do is start educating our clients and talking to them about why things are more expensive. I mean, when I was a little kid, my allowance was 25 cents. So for those of you that have kids, I don't know what your allowances are, but I'm guessing it was more than 25 cents. But that's just something we need to talk about with our clients. And I know there's also a lot of new people that are in the industry, and they don't necessarily understand why things cost or why things work the way they do. Someone called us recently, and they wanted to know how much is a tent. And we asked, what size? And there we go. And they didn't know what size, and so we couldn't really answer that question. And so we have to help educate our clients so that we can tell them why something costs, how much it costs, and the reasoning behind that so that they can understand that.
Enter event planner.
And get to an event plan, yeah.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much. And we'll come back to that with any questions from the audience a little later. Lally?
So I don't think there's like one necessary example as it applies to an event planner, because across the board it's impacted our industry. And I think it's been interesting. You had a year of COVID where there were postponements and cancellations, and then those micro weddings. Then you had a year that was double the number of events that we're used to, with 50% functioning event industry, because people left, people changed jobs. You have new people coming in. I think that was a really good point. There are so many event planners. There are so many venue managers. Some people don't really understand how much something costs. And then the rise of social media has been really interesting to navigate being an event planner, because all of our clients have access to every single image that they want to see, every publication, every amazing Instagram post that someone makes, but they have no concept of how much that costs. Like, oh, look at that beautiful Tuscan garden wedding at that beautiful mansion, or that rooftop dinner for 13. Like, they have no idea that took us 6 floors to hike up and 15 crew members and a ton of money to make just a dinner happen. And so my job is to educate them early on, to talk about the images that they're drawn to and what they want, and then build out a budget. But it is, fortunately, I'm in a position where my clients have more money, but even people that have more money question how much certain things cost now. A pillow shouldn't cost $35, $45 to rent. That's crazy. I love spending money, but sometimes you're like, oh, wow, this inflation is really impacting us. So we can't necessarily create some things that people want. at the same price that we could originally. And I understand prices increase. I understand labor. I understand that. But getting creative now comes with a whole new struggle. So that's my life.
All righty. Thank you so much. Adam?
So our costs are maybe a little bit different than what people might assume with a catering company. We sell food, but that's one of the things we sell. And I think luckily we're not like Phil's Coffee, where I assume a ton of their cost is selling coffee beans, and the price of coffee beans goes up 18 cents a pound or whatever. That costs them $7 million. But we sell filet to one client, and we sell sea bass to another client, and we sell chicken to another client, and we sell pork to another client. And luckily it's not one thing on food, but everything has gone up a little bit. And if filet goes up by 20%, like, that's going to hurt us on the one event, but on another event, sea bass only went up by 3%. I'm totally making these numbers up, but I think you get what I'm saying, is that it's not as impactful for us. But what's impactful for us really is the labor. And I had read once, and I don't know how many people have heard this, but I mentioned Phil's, but Starbucks, you would think that Starbucks spends more money on coffee than anything else, but they don't. Starbucks' number one expense is health insurance. And the same thing with us. Like, it's the cost of food is one thing, but we're now paying the people who are cooking that food more. We're now paying the people who are delivering that food to us from our vendors. They're now charging a labor surcharge or a fuel surcharge. We're now paying the people who are working at our events. The servers are getting paid more. The bartenders are getting paid more. We're now, a big factor is the rental companies, and we're now paying, maybe a glass went up from 80 cents to 92 cents or whatever, but the difference is that the labor fee has now gone up hugely. And so it really comes down to labor. And I think one way that's shown is, we used to quote, pre-pandemic, someone would call us for a wedding, I'm making this up, and we'd quote them, okay, 100 chairs is going to cost X, and tables and linens and glassware, and we had a pretty good idea of what that would cost. And we'd send the quote to the client, and if they went with us, then we'd book a rental company, and it would be pretty close to that amount. But we don't do that anymore now. Like, we won't send a quote without getting a quote from a rental company and knowing exactly that, the labor. I don't want to throw Neil under the bus at all. Like, I know why your costs are that way, but the costs just range so much, and there's so many labor surcharges and that sort of thing that we won't take that risk anymore.
Sorry. Just one thing about the labor, it was a really good point. That is one of the biggest things that's changed in our discussion with our clients, is we say, okay, look, it's going to be $100 a head for food, but then you're going to pay another $100 a head for labor. So when you get this quote, the food cost is going to be the same cost as labor. And that is a whole new thing for clients to understand.
Yeah, to the point of labor too, is like, I think all of us want to make sure that we're hiring people and we're paying them a good wage so that they don't have to work 2 to 3 jobs just to make a living too. We want to invest heavily in our clients. So it goes back to your experience. And asking those questions for the clients too. So there's so many things that go into it. So you're talking about labor. So Lally, you mentioned talking about, going up on the 4th floor, and that affects portage costs and delivery, gas again. So being mindful of asking those questions and making sure the clients understand everything and asking us questions, and so that we're all double checking one another and making sure we're not letting something slip through the cracks.
I have so much to say.
Oh, go ahead. You have a lot to say.
As a planner, it's like this very interesting balance of the client being our client, but the vendors being our client, and respecting the fact that you need to charge more because you're carrying a sofa from over there all the way to that corner, and then all the other sofas that need to go over there, and educating our clients on that. But it's still, there's this disconnect with the people that want to have events and have weddings, the people that do them, and how much work it takes. Like, you spend 3-4 days building something for 4 hours, and then you tear it down, and educating clients on that as best as we can. We try, but it's sometimes really hard for them to understand what it takes.
I think one of the there were a lot of hidden benefits in the pandemic, but one is the value of people. And I think, I mean, call me a bad guy, but I think pre-pandemic, we thought of our staff a little bit as a commodity. And if John didn't work out at X rate, we knew we could find Jane. And our mentality has just totally changed where, no, if John's good, we're going to pay John what he's worth. And our staffing manager and hiring manager who are hiring our on-site staff, I think are a little shocked by our change in attitude around that. You know, we're now hiring people at 130% of what we were hiring them for pre-pandemic, and it's like, yeah, that's what should be done. That's the right thing to do. Not only do you need to do that to get people, but it's the right thing to do, and that's a good benefit that's come out of this. But unfortunately, where that's shown is the cost of our service has gone up.
I think, and to your point too, like a lot of people like love their Pinterest pages and they want to see something and they don't understand the cost of something. But another question we should be asking is, what's your budget? So if we can find out what their budget is for something, we can try and find something that can fit your budget, or if we need to refer you to somebody else.
Yeah, I think wedding and event planners need a 101 on budgeting. I love budgeting. I came from a corporate event background, so like you start your budget and then we talk about design and all of that stuff, but that's not necessarily how it is. So how can we, as a venue, understand, and I love when I do an event at a venue, I'm like, look at this budget doc. This is how much it costs to do an event like this. Let's talk about what would maybe cost more, what would cost less, so the next time you bring someone in, you know, hey, your event's probably going to cost about $500K for that many people at a minimum because of X, Y, and Z. And I think as an industry, we need to help each other out there so that venues can be more accommodating. And I would love to go to a venue and they'd be like, yeah, it's going to cost probably about $200K minimum, just based on these photos that you're looking at. And I think we can all do that together if we just kind of spend more time together.
And then from the audience, with the labor question that we just talked about, is that sort of what we're seeing both in the hotels and in the venues, just by a show of hands? All righty. And then just another question that we had talked about was with those rising costs and that we've just identified, how has that been affecting the creative process in what we might have seen post-pandemic versus now? And we'll start with Lally.
I think the past 2 years have been really hard because companies, one, are either shorter staffed or they're not sourcing new products, they're not purchasing new products. We're now seeing that it's happening more, which is wonderful, but venues weren't upgrading, venues were closed down. Companies weren't changing their chairs or upgrading their chairs, and if you ordered 140 chairs and 5 broke, you only have 135 and they don't have any extras. So the past 2 years have been really difficult to manage events. We do it and it's fun, but you've got to spend a lot of money and you got to bank on your vendors pulling through for you. But it is nice to see kind of on the horizon that people are making more money, they're purchasing more things, they're willing to do custom build outs and get a little bit creative and work with you a little bit more. But it was a tough couple years of everyone kind of just trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet.
And then Adam, with that on that same line, do you find that folks are with labor and venue and everything else going up? Are you finding that they're skimping a little bit or changing their catering selections?
Yeah, I mean, Amanda and I talked about this on the way over, and we're doing a Google holiday party, but they came to us with X budget at Julia's venue, and said, we want, A, B, and C, and we want, lighting, and we want draping, and we want acrobats, and we want this and that, and we ran the numbers, and said, we can give you food and labor, and I don't know where it's going to end up, but it's going to take some creativity on whether they're okay with that. We aren't in a position, we try to not nickel and dime our clients, and we want to give them as much as we can, but there's a point where we can't give you $127,000 worth of stuff for $70,000, and it's going to take creativity on both sides.
Brown supported, sir.
I think also talking about being creative, you talk to your clients and like they have a venue and they're going to give you like their must-haves versus their priorities, like what they want. Like, we must have this, we must have that. And then there are things that like, yeah, I don't care as much about this. So this is a way you can be creative as well, because we can just talk about like, they absolutely have to have this band at this, at this event, and this is how much the band costs, and everything else. And maybe they don't care as much about the food, or they can serve pizza or something.
We're not offended. That's okay.
No, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus.
we're not.
I'm offended because then everyone's wasted and I have to take care of them.
But those are ways to be creative. But you can be creative with bigger budgets too, because sometimes if you have a bigger budget, it's like, what do you want to do? Can we build you something? And it goes both ways. So if it's a smaller budget, and it's like, how can we get creative? How can we give you the look and the experience that you want for what the smaller budget is? And let's look at all of our options. And then, luckily, when we live and we have the bigger budgets as well, and then we get, we can get creative and come up with something new and cool for you. So it works both ways, I think.
And then Lally?
I think that honestly that's probably what's so hard about it right now is if you're in the market of, higher end events and you have the budgets and you have the clients with the budgets, sure, you can have a blast. The companies love to work with you. They'll probably negotiate with you. We'll make it work. But I'm seeing this like gap of the people that have still great budgets, 200,000, 250,000 for 150 people, and they can't get what they want because there's this just crazy markup, or just people are just not available. They're burnt out. They can't get what they want. So finding how we can be creative for that middle tier and lower tier, I think, is really important for this industry.
This might be a little bit controversial, but I'll be honest. I mean, with us and with a number of other catering companies too as well, like, we're busy now. We are working at, we can't do the capacity that we did in 2019, but we're probably getting 125% of the inquiries that we were getting in 2019. And it's a horrible thing, but it's easy to say no. If that client doesn't work out, that Google one we were talking about, like, something else is probably going to come for that day. And you don't want to take that attitude and be like, we can't work with you. Like, we don't do that. We don't try to hit home runs on every event. We try to hit singles and doubles, but the reality is it's there. Like, the business is going to be there. And I think it's going to take a couple years for that to equilibrium to kind of sort itself out in our industry.
I mean, you don't want to fail. I mean, we don't want to fail our clients or anything, too. So if we say no, there's a reason we're saying no. It's because we don't have the labor, or we don't have the product or something, and hopefully next time you'll come to work with us. But I think that's important too. Just say, like, go someplace else, or talk to who else you're talking to like get you what you need. And we're sorry, but that's important.
This is fun. That has been very hard for planners, because I know how busy everyone is, and I get that, but response times take longer. Getting quotes back take longer. They're not as excited because they have so many leads for that day. So how we can continue to make clients feel special, even if they're not necessarily the right fit, is something that we've been navigating as a team to figure out in this crazy industry, because this year is nuts.
I'm super intrigued by the process that the Unique Venue Alliance has, where if you've got a client that doesn't work for you, that it goes out to everybody else. And I mean, if catering had that would, I think, help everybody. Because it's tough to say no. You don't want to say no. You want to make it work, but we don't have the capacity.
And I mean, that's what the Venue Alliance was there for. I mean, we are competitors, but there's enough business there that it can, when you're not available, whether it's too big or too small, or your dates are full, is that when it goes out to the community and the alliance, that we're there to help each other. And that's kind of what we're here as a group, to foster that type of bridge between all of us and promote each other as an industry that is aligned for the success of all of us, which is in the end much better. So, Lally, I wanted to circle back, and you had indicated that one of the challenges you have are on markups. Can you address that a little bit?
Just on things being more expensive? Is that?
Well, you had said that one of the, even though they had a really significant budget, that you were finding that markups put you outside of that significant budget.
Yeah, no matter how well, I mean, no matter how well educated you are in this industry, no matter how many events you do, you're still learning every time you do an event. Every build is different, every event is custom designed. So you're dealing with, okay, I did a tent like this 6 months ago, it was this cost, but I really have to do my research sometimes now and go back and say, is this tent going to be the same cost, or is it going to be like $20,000 more? So florals that, you know, a good floral budget a couple years ago was $10,500. You could get great florals for that. Like that is a minimal budget now, right? You're looking at 15 to 18,000, maybe 20,000 to get the same $10,000 florals. A lot of that's labor. A lot of that is because of price of flowers. And as much as we want to be educated on all the increase in pricing, food costs, all of that, we can't necessarily know all of that. So in building a budget, we have to be very sensitive of like, hey, we're going to just have like a 25,000 K slush fund for all of the things that are probably going to pop up in this planning process, right? Because inevitably there are no matter what if prices are down or up. Is that?
That's good. Thank you. Do you guys would like to say anything else before we get to the fun part? We're going to give the microphone out to the crowd for questions. Anything?
No, I'd love if we could tell our clients we're going to have a slush fund, you know. But with Neil's business and our business, we need to give a price, and that is going to take some guessing on our part, and sometimes we'll guess wrong, and sometimes we won't. But on the other side, it's getting the quotes and getting all that back from people, which are going to be higher. But
and on a,
I'm not saying your job's easy.
Oh no,
It's right.
no one's job is.
Just that.
I think that what I've learned most about the pandemic and now coming out of it with my catering relationships are really understanding the venue and what it takes to do an event there. If it's a plated dinner, if it's, well, family style is slowly coming back maybe, but all of that, how far the kitchen is, where like all of these questions we have, where's lighting, how many bartenders we have, that conversation needs to happen at the very beginning with you. Otherwise, there's at least another 10K added on no matter what, usually with labor, because it was not budgeted appropriately. And I think that that's something we need to start doing more. It's like really keeping that accurate at the start.
Yeah, and just asking all the questions of your client, asking us all the questions, just making sure we're not missing anything, so there are no surprises when you get to your event. It's like, oops, I didn't know you needed like 500 more glasses or something that we didn't know about before, and getting that to you, and then there's a second run charge and things like that. So we're just trying to be as prepared as possible, making sure that we're all envisioning the same event so it can be successful for everyone.
Thank you all for this educational half hour or so. And now we're going to open it up to the audience. Walter has a microphone, so just raise your hand and you'll get a microphone. Who would like to? Mark. Any surprises on that one?
I always have a big mouth. I have a big mouth and lots to say. So we're finding the biggest pricing shifts, obviously in labor, but also in bar cost. Like we're like, oh, well, now we can't get that. I mean, it's a supply chain issue, right? But one of the things that I would love to see us do an event about is, and you know, I know what most of you charge. You know what we charge. But it would be nice to try to start sharing those resources in a way that, like, and I'll just say this. How many people have been on the Smile events for Salesforce? Yeah. Okay. So we all got this same sort of proposal, but like one of the things that's tough is that like they'll come in for a walkthrough and then they're like, you know, it's just a comma or a comment that's slightly different that can impact a price 10 grand, right? So, but the cost and the time for us to put these proposals together, like ours was a 6-day event for them. We had 3 different events for them. It's a DMC out of London. They flew over from London, you know, and all this kind of thing. And like, you know, we have all these sort of hours that we put into proposal after proposal after proposal that go nowhere, or they finally go. And maybe that's just the cost of doing business, but I would love for us to all start talking about, we're great at sharing the leads, but maybe we should, I mean, I literally had this client come in with 4 other bids in their hand. And it was just like, why are you looking at like all these different venues and putting everybody through this amount of work, and then they already know what their budget is, and then we've done, 6 days worth of work trying to get this thing put together, and we have Carrie Dove or Fresh or Work of Art or all of our different caterers have to go through all that work, and you guys are busy. I mean, putting bids together is the biggest time suck for, I think, all of us pre-event, right? So if we're doing, like right now we've got 30 or 40 of those, and like we're buried just trying to get the estimates out, and then like how do you all deal with it? Because we're all doing the same thing, but it's like there's got to be a better way where we could all work together to start sharing some of this information without, I mean, we all know what each other charges for the most part, but there's got to be a better way to do it so that we can start educating, like you said, these clients a little bit better.
We had a panel with the DMCs a while ago, and I'll go to that same website we're going to post this video on that nobody's going to go to watch it. But that was addressed is the multiple holds for the multiple days, and then never is a bad word, frequently not getting back to us and holding these dates, and then we chase them down and they're still holding the dates. So it's definitely a industry-wide issue that needs to be addressed. Any other questions?
Oh, can I just make a comment?
Yes, please.
I think venues should charge a hold fee, even if it's $50, $100. We've learned that we try and only recommend, if we can recommend one, great. Otherwise, we recommend 2, maybe 3 vendors. We try not to do bids. We try not to have them build custom things for us. We want to just get a general pricing. We understand how much time it takes. Usually we want quick turnaround. So I think that's on us as planners too, to respect people's time a little bit more and be open and honest and transparent. That's it.
And the only other thing I'll add to that too is like you should give people deadlines. So if you're like doing all that work for something and you're holding a date and you're not sure, and just like if you don't get back to me by Friday, then we're letting this go and we're moving on. So good.
Sterling and then Christoph, or actually Christoph, then Sterling.
Hi. I have a problem right now also understanding the pricing for our clients. We have clients on the tier 1 level that wants to go with us, but we don't know the prices for the furniture and the catering. And so how can we understand better? We talk about pricing. How can we understand better? So what I did that last week. I asked all my caterers, I created like 6 different scenarios of event and asked all my caterers to go back with a price per person to have an idea about how to sell them better. So is there any other way we can work with you to understand those prices, or send something on a tier 1, that would be the minimum level 1 or 2 that we can actually share with our clients, because they need help and I need help to sell, because we lose groups because they want to work with us and then the price of the catering come in and they're like, it's too expensive for us, we go somewhere else. So how can we find a solution there?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a catch-22 for us. Like, we completely know where you're coming from. And our fear, and maybe this is an unfounded fear, is that we say, okay, an event similar to this is going to be X, an event similar to this is going to be Y, an event similar to this is going to be Z. But we don't know that until we get the rental quote, until we determine, whether they have beef or fish doesn't matter to us, really, but it's all the other things that go into an event, and is that a 4-hour event or is it a 4.5-hour event, or is it, that type of thing? And we're hesitant to give those for fear that it's going to kind of come back to bite us. And I'm not saying that's right or not, but that's what keeps us up at night. We had a heated discussion internally yesterday on that exact topic, and we didn't come up with a solution,
I'll tell you, at least on the rental side, for us, all our pricing is on our website. So, you can look that up. But I think what would help you more is if we can talk to you about creating some packages. So if you're saying, like, we need a basic lounge grouping, if you want, like, a sofa, 2 chairs, a coffee table, a couple of end tables, and an area rug, the range will be from this to that. And then that way you can sell your clients. And if you want a specialty bar, they're like this. And depending on how many people you have, this is what you should charge. Obviously labor and things like that are going to be a different conversation. But as far as like basic pricing for any basic rental needs, then you can always look on our website, but we can always talk to you about creating some packages as well to help you sell that.
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial for venues like that have questions like that to sit down with planners too. And let's say, okay, let's build out a floor plan. Let's talk through what it will take, what it will look like. Let's look at some pictures. I would love to do that because I think it's beneficial for everyone. Fortunately for us, we do a lot of vetting of venues before we even recommend it to clients. So when our clients go, they know they can afford it. They know how much it's going to cost. They know what it's kind of going to look like. That's not the case for a lot of people. So if you guys can be a little bit more prepared and have your like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 with an understanding that can spend less, but you can obviously always spend more, would be beneficial. And even if it's just a general like, hey, at 1,000 square foot or 10,000 square foot venue, this is what you're going to need furniture wise. This is what you're going to like, what it's going to look like cost wise, catering wise for X, Y, and Z. And that can be shared as like a document for everyone, of course, depending on site fees and long carries and all that fun stuff.
Thank you. Sterling?
Hey, how's it going? So I'm the manager at the Bridge Yard in Oakland. Thank you, San Francisco Venues, for welcoming us from across the pond. I would love to ask those who are managing venues or doing sales in venues, how many of you actually offer your pricing online where they can see it? Anybody put their hand up? Just not, okay. Is that because there's just so many nuances between one or another? They're all very different. Okay, same with us. Thank you. Always welcoming designers to come in and bring their designer heads into venues to take a look around, like, how would you design this? Help us with some price points with this. I'm finding a lot that clients will not share their budgets with us. Are you all finding that as well? They will not, and we have that mandatory on our inquiry form that they have to share their budget, and they'll be super cute for an 100-person event, and they'll write $1 million in there because they have to fill out the form, right? Are you finding that same? Oh, it's so frustrating. I find like I'm spending more of my time talking people out of doing events at our venue than doing events at our venue. Because I'm like, well, that's going to be about $70K. And they're like, well, I was thinking more like 20. He's like, well, I'm thinking maybe this is not the venue for you. Well, we just won't have lighting. You have lighting, right? Well, we have work lighting. So people could do events at our venues for $20K and it would look like shit, but then our venue looks like crap, right? So where do we find the medium between booking those days and not wanting to be dark and, hey, I'll take the $20K instead of zero, but still trying to maintain a level of, branding, I guess.
I would say definitely stay true to your brand, even if it means turning down business, because then you're not going to be attracting the clientele that you want. And I know it's hard, but ends up working out usually. I would love to write a little black book about all the traditions and things that you're not supposed to talk about, and you're supposed to do and not supposed to do at weddings and corporate events. I think that is fascinating to me, what people think. But they need to learn to talk about money, and because if they show up at a venue, and we do this with our clients even before we talk about venues, is like, no, I need to know how much money. And so they're like, yeah, we don't really have a budget. I'm like, cool, so we'll spend $1 million? They're like, no. Probably like 100,000 for like 250 people. I'm like, yeah, okay, so that's probably not going to work for a Filoli or a San Francisco venue that you have to bring in all the rentals for. They're like, wow, no one's told me this before. I'm like, are you reading The Knot? Like, The Knot says you can do a wedding for $35,000. I'm like, for catering, probably. So I don't know what needs to change in this industry. It's this just whole beautiful thing that you can have everything you want and you don't have to pay for it, because you're famous or because you're rich or because you're an executive, that you get special treatment. And that shouldn't be the case. And I think that as a venue, you have to stay true to it. As a planner, I have to be like very honest and open that, like, no, you cannot. We were just talking to a client yesterday and they want to have this whole shaded cover over their ceremony for 30 minutes and think that just put up fabric, we'll just buy it on, what is it, Home Depot, Amazon, we'll just buy it, you guys put it up, it'll be perfect. We're like, no, it's going to cost $15,000 if you want to do it, and it's going to happen the day before, and we're going to charge more because now we have to be there. And they're like, wait a second. So I think that we all have to just be a little bit more blunt with people, because I think when we start scooting around. Oh yeah, maybe I could do that for you. Maybe I could put out all of your ceremony chairs and not have the rental company do that to save you on some costs. Like, no, that is not my job, and it's not your job to be like cutting costs so that you can accommodate certain people. We have to be honest.
For example, while Walter and I and Lillian were walking through on this very spot, I suggested maybe I could bring my beat up old poker chairs for you folks to sit on, which Lillian then said no. Excellent point, Sterling. And I don't know, a long time ago it was told that, you never divulge your budget because the people will match that budget with whatever it is that they say, with what you can do. And you need to, it's an age-old question. Take, a lesser budgeted program now, today, for something that could be bigger later. So, Adam and I were talking about that just this morning. Unfortunately, it's one of those, if you don't take it, it still could go dark, and if you wait, you could get a home run. So that is a age-old question for all of us. We have time for one more. Who would like to? Adam. There you go. I didn't notice the microphone.
Hi, I'm Adam, the other Adam.
I'm the other Adam.
No, I'm the other Adam. You're on stage. Merchants Exchange, Julie Morgan Ballroom, Merchants Exchange Club. Little bit less of a question, somewhat of a comment to just what's being said today. I love that Adam picked up on sort of the unique value of this group and sort of the exchange of the leads, and that pre-pandemic we weren't in the business of saying no, and sometimes now we are. The one thing that I want to drive home, and I feel like it's a collective responsibility for this industry, is ensuring that we still make this world accessible. And while pricing is going up and everything is becoming more expensive to do things, everybody's still entitled to have a great wedding or host a birthday party or do things like that. And I know us at Merchants Exchange, we've been spending a lot of time over the last few months really developing a pricing model that is sort of a good, better, best, or ensuring that we have something to offer at various price points rather than just saying this is who we are as a brand and this is what it costs to do business with us. And also making sure that when we do have to say no, because we do, that it's followed with a but here's the direction that I recommend you go in, or here's the person I think you should talk to. Here is, this isn't the end of the line. Like, don't give up on the fact that you're turning 50 and you can't afford to do your birthday here. But, I bet that there's a place out there that you can and still have a great experience. And it's our responsibility to connect and make sure that we know who those alternatives are, so that we can keep that going. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, it must be the name, because I agree 100%. We've talked about that too. Like, we can't just keep raising prices. Like, I'm talking about us as a company, not caterers as caterers. But we have a niche, and we could probably get away with charging, 1.5 what we're charging. But that comes with drawbacks. That's not just getting 1.5 times as much money. That's getting 1.5 times expectations, and that's getting a different type of clients that maybe we don't want to work with all the time, and that's putting us in a position that we don't want to be in. And we want clients who are happy to hire us and feel like they're getting a good value, and there's somebody who said for that, because just raising your prices is silly. Like, that's not fair.
Yeah, I think another big mistake that we're kind of realizing that we've made over time, and I think the industry there was a time where it really worked, was this sort of all-inclusive pricing that really masked what percentage of that price was going to labor, what was going to food, what was going to this, what was going to that. And we've really spent the time to kind of deconstruct pricing so that it's very clear that every category lives in its own, that it supports itself, and it doesn't rely on, maybe overstaffing here so that we could do this over there, and just keep it really, straightforward, so that when we do need to make cuts or discount something or, offer something for free, we know exactly what the value of that is. We can share that value with them. and we can make really educated decisions about, what we're doing.
Alrighty, that concludes our panel and our day here. I would like to thank all of you for being here today and for continually supporting the Unique Venue Alliance and the Bay Area Hospitality Group. I would like to thank Uriel here who for the production, and you'll be able to see that video shortly. Merchants Exchange, Walter and his team back there for letting me talk to you and such. Marbar for the food back there and the drinks and such. Casanova Events. Snap Fiesta's over here. Make sure to take some, go there and have some fun in the VW there. I have some pictures already, so we're going to have some fun over in the VW. And most Lillian fan and Crossing here. Come back, see a movie. This Friday we're playing Raising Arizona, and then Priscilla of the Desert, I believe. Is that correct? I'm sorry.
Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Close enough. So the movies will be over there on Friday. And most importantly, our panel here, Neil, Lally, and Adam. All righty, party time.